Stay on the job.
One.
I like it.
Hey guys, welcome in. It's time to start Bollocks. This evening, we got some special guests in here. Actually, one special guest. I didn't turn my sound off, or was that you?
No. I'm
Okay, I think that was me.
Second day on the job. I got this figured out.
I'm new here. But we're excited about it. We got wine in front of us. We got some cleansing the palate for us. We have Irving Kass in here from Ben 39, the expert whiner that we have in the studio with us. So we're real excited about tonight's show. We both have drivers, so we're okay with that. And I'm going to start us off with, because we are here in the Bozard Ford studios, Bozard Ford Lincoln in St. Augustine. Their goal is to make sure your time and experience buying a car is stress-free, fun, and enjoyable. Bozard is a family-owned Ford dealership that has been in business since 1949. Bozard Ford Lincoln has been a recipient of numerous dealer awards, including being ranked #1 automotive dealership in the nation by Dealer Rating. Bozard Ford has also won back-to-back President's Awards, which is the highest honor given by Ford Motor Company. Check them out today online at bozardford.com.
Established in 2006, Solar Stick is a local portable power company proudly committed to American manufacturing. That's a lot of popping peas. There's a lot of popping peas in there.
Peppa Pig.
Constant innovation and creating jobs right here in St. Augustine, Florida. Solar Stick's focus on providing solutions for self-sufficiency helps users all over the world complete missions and save lives. Solar Stick, changing lives, saving lives, and reviving American manufacturing.
All right, these guys are the best right here, and we're talking about Abear, Kresge and Associates. They are the best because they handle my taxes.
Right.
And my taxes are not easy to do. All right. Abear, Kresge and Associates is a full-service local CPA firm with a team of skilled professionals dedicated to providing top-level service in the areas of tax compliance, planning for business, individuals, estates, and trust. They also do audits, reviews, and other accounting services. If you're looking to have your business valuation, forensic analysis, or litigation support, give them a call at 904-460-0747 or at abearkresgecpa.com.
You know what goes great with wine? Italian food.
Ooh, yeah.
Experience the art of Italian dining at Saint, nestled in the heart of historic St. Augustine. From handmade pastas to rich risottos and indulgent tiramisu, every dish blends authentic Italian flavor with modern elegance. Sip a craft cocktail, savor seasonal ingredients, and enjoy breathtaking views from our second-floor balcony or rooftop patio, where you can take in the bayfront and even spot the lighthouse on a clear day. I keep hearing Barbra Streisand, on a clear day,
Yeah,
you can see forever.
Please don't do that to the Saint. You're singing during their ad. We're going to lose them.
Nah.
We're going to lose them.
Nah, they're gonna want me for an encore. At Saint, every meal is a celebration. Join us and elevate your dining experience.
All right. We have in with us the one, the only Irving Kass from Ben 39.
Well, thank you so much for having me here.
And you have this other company, St. George Inn or something?
Yeah, a little hotel there.
Yeah. A little hobby that you have there. So I appreciate you coming in. I mean, you're one of our sponsors on the morning show, but we really couldn't get into, I know you have in the past, but for me to really enjoy what you're going to present to us and what you can offer at Ben 39, I had to have you on the evening show.
Well, it sort of fit my rule from COVID. When I had to bring all the wine from Ben 39 home when we closed the hotel for COVID, I realized that I had over 1,000 bottles in my guest bedroom.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
And so I made a rule.
I would have loved to have been a house guest.
With a corkscrew.
I made a rule. No drinking till 5.
Oh,
and
okay.
so we're now going to follow that, even though I don't follow that rule all the time.
Yeah. Well, it's a more of a guideline. More of a guideline. Right. So Irving, I know you're a true wine lover. Are you working on becoming a sommelier? Or am I saying it correctly?
You are saying it correctly, but no.
Okay. You just love wine.
I just like wine quite well. I love wine, and I've been in the hospitality business since 1977, and fortunate to have worked in San Francisco in 1980. So I was exposed to good wines and the wine country early in my career. And I worked for Hyatt Hotels at that time, and so we were pretty progressive in food and beverage for the hotel industry back then. I got to meet a lot of winemakers, went to a lot of wineries. Not that there was an abundance of wineries in 1980, but there were some great ones. In fact, it's what I wanted to talk about today is more how I learned to really understand wine, probably as well as quite a number of people in the business, and why I don't have a formal degree. I know just enough to be dangerous.
You know enough to be dangerous. Okay, I have to ask this question because I do the read every morning, and it says that you have over 50 different brands of wine that are 90 plus points of Robert Parker. Explain to me what that Robert Parker rating is.
Well, there are all sorts of raters out there.
Okay.
There's Wine Spectator. There's just a dozen or so.
Okay.
Robert Parker has been one of the stars of rating for probably 30 years now.
Okay.
And what he does that's different than most is he does not advertise. He does not accept money from advertisers at all. If you want to be a member of his society, which I am, you pay, I don't know if I pay $100, $200 a year for access to his website, all of their ratings. His taste palette is more similar to mine than others. So if Robert Parker says it's a 95, I think it's pretty good too.
The same.
It doesn't make him the expert. There are a lot of really knowledgeable people in the industry, but he's probably, in my mind, the gold standard that if you get a wine advocate rating, it has a better good housekeeping seal than some of the other ratings.
Okay.
And if you go way back in the history of Napa, for example, if you go back to Inglenook, which everyone remembers as jug wine, before it was jug wine, it was the best cabs you could get in Napa in the 50s from Robert Daniel Jr., but they didn't have a rating back there, so it wasn't 97, 98 point wine because there was no such thing. I think that became more popular in more of the, I don't know for sure, but around the 70s and 80s.
Well, when I read that tomorrow morning, at least I'll know what the heck
What
I'm
you're talking
reading.
about.
And because I was like,
What it means is we have the largest collection of really good wine by the glass in North Florida. Maybe anywhere that doesn't have one of those wine bars that's all the machines where you push the buttons.
oh yeah,
Our collection is probably the highest wine by the glass list in the state.
wonderful.
So
So you brought us in four to try. So let's get right into it. You tell me what we
I
got.
want to do a little background. We're going to start with Dunstan, which is Durrell Vineyards, and Durrell Vineyards is one of the better vineyards. It's in what is called the Petaluma Gap, and Petaluma Gap is, it basically comes off of the southern end of Sonoma and pushes up towards Petaluma, but you get the fog from the San Francisco Bay and it continues up that gap, and it creates a wonderful area for Pinot Noirs and Chardonnays.
Okay.
This Dunstan, which was started out as Durrell Vineyards, is one of the best growers, and they have about 800 acres of Chardonnay and Pinot Noir grapes in all of Sonoma. And for example, Kessler, which everyone knows is one of the they get their grapes from these people.
Oh, okay.
So we are basically, they cloned 14 acres to grow their own grapes. We're drinking the same grape clone that Kessler uses.
Okay.
And the owners of the winery decided, I know we grow grapes, but we need wine to bring to our friends for parties.
All right.
So this is a very nice
What a lovely sound.
Chardonnay. And the interesting thing about this is it's half the price of Kessler.
Oh, wow. That's, and when you take a wine, like as you're kind of, and then you're a chef, so you guys definitely have a head up. I mean, here, a Deland boy from, playing baseball in my life, I didn't get a whole lot of wines in my world until later on in life. What's the best way to feel all the flavor when you take it in and absorb the wine?
Well, first you're going to swirl.
I'm not going to swirl left-handed because I'll throw it everywhere. So
Okay.
Put it on the table and just do it like that, and you'll be okay.
But the other thing is I can tell if a wine is good or not by just smelling.
Mhm.
I can smell and enjoy the wine without even tasting it.
Yep.
yeah, see, getting hit in the face too many times with a baseball, my sniffer's not so great.
I
But
can understand that. That's why I didn't play baseball.
well, that's
Right. Priorities.
And I was not a very good athlete. Maybe that had something
that's
to
the
do with
reason
it.
my career was in Parks and Rec. I wasn't good enough either. So
Fairly light.
I usually do not like Chardonnays, but this is really
And it's
smooth.
not overly buttery like a lot of the trendy. It sort of started in the 80s to have the bigger, buttery, bolder, because Chardonnay went so well in the 80s with cocaine.
Oh, did it? is that what it paired with?
Yeah, that's what it paired with.
Being in the restaurant business, I'm sure he's witnessed that.
I refuse to self-incriminate
I said
myself.
witness.
Right.
I didn't say
Okay.
participated.
Well,
I
yeah.
said witness.
I've seen some
I only
things.
know that from the movie Blow.
Yeah, that, obviously.
I only know that from the walk-in freezer.
Yeah.
No, seriously, it became a trendy wine back in the 80s, and everyone loved the bigger Chardonnays. Up until then, what was considered the more sophisticated white wine was Sauvignon Blanc.
Okay.
And then all of a sudden, Chardonnay just passed it by. It was sort of like the same thing that happened when Merlot went out of favor, and all of a sudden Pinot Noir passed it by. It's just, there are many wonderful white wines, but if you do it more in the, classic French, a Pouilly-Fuissé, you're going to have a lot less of that intense buttery taste. And that's the type of Chardonnay that I prefer.
Because you see the trends, and I know you're a trend guy. I know in you and how you chase numbers. You and I have that same type of patterns and stuff like that. Is there a pattern in the age brackets, like millennials drink this, Gen Xers drink this, and is there a generational pattern like you just said?
I
for the
don't know if
Pinot
it's generational or as people's palate grows.
Right.
Because interestingly enough, there are trends. About 5 years ago, everyone discovered rosé, and they realized that rosé wasn't white Zinfandel, but you can have amazing rosés made from almost every grape. There's Pinot Noir rosés that are fabulous. There are Grenache-based rosés. They're Rosanne-based. There are all sorts of grapes that make really wonderful, and I'm partial to the more classic French puckery style of rosé that you typically find in Provence. My favorite winery for rosé is Chateau Haut, and it's just great. There's an everyday Chateau Haut, and then there's really good. There are some restaurants that are capitalizing on the name, serving their everyday.
Mm-hmm.
We happen to have one of their better ones. They're much harder to get, but we discovered those when we were in Provence years ago. And I said, this is really good wine. I had no idea I was drinking one of the best rosés on earth. Now, all of a sudden, in the last 2 years, Rhone varietals are making a huge comeback, and red blends, Grenache is showing up everywhere on menus, and people are drinking it, and they've discovered it for the first time, even though it's been around forever. You're now seeing a lot of wineries in the United States making Grenache blends. And so that's a trend, but normally what I see is people start out, if you're going to start drinking wine, you're going to start with an easy to drink, like a Pinot Grigio, New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc.
You mean grapefruit juice?
There's a story about that, but we don't have to go there. But that's
Please don't. Please don't.
Okay, but and then people will go and they'll have a Pinot Noir, but they will have a Pinot Noir that may be blended, because a real Pinot Noir is a little bit too intense for most people, or they need to have a super soft, like Sonoma Coast Pinot Noir or something like that.
Is that what we're doing next, the Pinot?
We are doing a Pinot.
All right, hand them over there.
I think as people learn more about wine and drink more about wine, they create their own sophistication and can get a better appreciation, and that's how they'll move to different varietals, bigger wines. Everybody's got to start somewhere.
Thank you, sir.
And it takes a little while.
Well, and I'm kind of a wine. I because I don't know my palate that well,
Mm-hmm.
so I know. Okay, I'm good with the cab. I'm good with the Malbec, and I kind of just stay in that circle. I've never explored too far outside of that circle.
So
and so this is why I'm really loving this. It's like it allows me to kind of step outside my comfort zone a little bit. And
okay, well, this is going to go a little bit out of your comfort zone. Let me explain what we're having. Wildcat Mountain is like the highest elevation in Sonoma, which is not saying much, but and it's a little bit, it's on the west, and I always have a hard time remembering that that's closer to the ocean. Mm-hmm. So you're getting a little bit more cooler air, a little bit higher elevation. So this creates Wildcat Mountain Vineyards only sells to this one winery, Talisman. And Talisman is one of my absolute favorite wineries. I went there with my wine guy maybe 15 years ago, and it was like my long lost cousin, Marta Rich, who is her and her husband, Scott. He's the winemaker. She does the sales of it. The two of us hit it off like we were long lost friends, and they basically have about 6 vineyards that grow the grapes for them, and then they make the wines, and every one of them are just totally unique, very, very classic Pinot Noirs.
Yeah, it's Burgundian in style, as opposed to an Oregon Pinot Noir.
And I have to ask this question. I mean, this is really, really good. A bottle like this, what would that normally run for the average Joe?
We can't even sell this in our wine bar because it's not distributed in Florida. They only sell the wine club members.
Oh, wow. Okay. Because this is
It's an obnoxious word called allocation.
This is really, really.
This is
As far as Pinot
probably
goes, I think this is the best Pinot I've ever had.
This is probably $65-$70 a bottle.
Okay.
Manageable.
So and they produce 272 cases, which is basically a barrel. You know, you can argue how many bottles are in a barrel because barrels go between 50 and 60 liters. And so you can, not liters, gallons, I'm sorry.
Gallons. Okay.
And so you get about 250 to 300 bottles, depending on the size.
All right. And you've drank more Pinot than I have, obviously.
Yes, absolutely. I'm a big fan of red Burgundies and Oregon Pinot Noirs, which are similar a lot in style, but depending on who the winemaker is at the time. Yeah. You know, you got to realize, or I do anyway, that, you know, a lot of wine tasting and wine appreciation is subjective. You know, people are going to taste the same wine and have completely different realizations of how it is. But, you know, every now and again, and it's, you know, is it a good wine? Is it a good wine on the second glass? Am I catching a little bit of a buzz and that's why it's so good? But I've had wines that have absolutely stopped me in my tracks. I've taken it, there's one that I remember for years. I mean, I drank this wine in the early 90s and is still to this day. It was an Australian Shiraz from Châtel Tabilk, and it was like drinking a glass of red velvet. It was one of the most amazing wine experiences I ever had, to the point that I still remember it. So, you know, it's all personal taste when it comes right down to it.
Yeah, and I can tell you right now, I've tried Pinot because, you know, we get invited to a lot of these fundraisers, and Pinot's one of the go-tos that they have. And, you know, I've tried Pinots, and it's a little different when it's a $65 or $70 bottle compared to
Pinot Noir,
a $9 bottle.
Pinot Noir is one of the hardest wines to do well. It is a finicky grape, but it's the artist and a winemaker wants to make Pinots because it's such a challenge. And every Pinot tastes a little different. It's very, very interesting. A lot of people think of Pinot, they think of Meiomi. Meiomi isn't anything close to what Pinot is supposed to taste like.
Gotcha.
I don't know how Meiomi is made, but it tastes to me like it's blended with Merlot because it feels round but not complex. And if you've noticed, this is a soft, easy drinking wine, but super complex at the same time. It has the same complexities that you'd find in a great cab, but a much easier, lighter. This Pinot Noirs I tend to bring to situations where I know that people like wine, but they may be white wine drinkers or red wine drinkers. This sort of fits that middle, and it could go either way. I always bring a bottle of Pinot for Thanksgiving dinner.
That's great with turkey.
Because it goes so well.
I was going to say, is this a kind of a fish and white meat wine, or how? I mean, as my chef side
you
here,
can use it for fish. You're better off with more white wines with fish, though. There's no real hard and fast rule on that, though people years ago would say white with fish and red with meat and some poultries. But this would be great for turkey, veal, pork. You don't want to use it with a heavy beef, but, you know, if you get a bigger Pinot Noir, you certainly can.
Okay.
And again, it's personal preference. You know, it comes back to what you enjoy.
And if I brought you a Pinot Noir from Russian River, like a Rocchioli, it's going to be much more full-bodied than this, and it would work better with a heavier
with the red
thing.
With the red.
And if I took us up to Oregon and had something from Dundee Hills, for example, or those areas, it's going to even be softer than this, typically, because that's how the characteristics of the wine are. If we go down to my friend Gary Pisani, who is in Santa Lucia Highlands, and he basically put Santa Lucia Highlands on the map, his Pinot Noir is much heavier, like the Russian River style. And those are big, bold. And so you can just jump around even throughout California and find all sorts of different flavor profiles, but they're all delicious.
No, like I said, I'm normally not I'm a person that would kind of look past that portion.
And what's interesting about these guys is they get wine from like 6 different vineyards. All 6 of their wines are completely different.
Really?
Yeah, so you just get A-level wines that have totally different tastes. I just pulled one off my rack. And one of the reasons I brought these wines today is these are all 4 wineries that my friend John Burdick, who I'm going to tour with in Napa in 2 weeks, has taken to me over the years. I've gone numerous times since 2008, and I've probably been to 50 different wineries that I didn't know about until I toured with John. And so sitting with the winemakers, with their teams, with the owners of all these wineries and spending quality time at each of their places, I really learned the nuances. You know, I remember being at Fisher Vineyards, and that's the same people. Since you have a car thing on right now,
Yeah.
you remember Body by Fisher?
Yeah. You used to be on your your running board.
Yeah, this is the money.
Had a little car.
This is the money of Body by.
You remember seeing it? It was if you open your car door. Like it was definitely in the old Chevys.
It was in all General Motors cars.
It was in the old Chevys. Like I basically, my dad had a Chevy station wagon, like a 75, 70, and I remember seeing it. It sits in that little silver plate as you open the door. As you step in, it said Body by Fisher on it with a little car.
Yeah. I got the logo pulled up for you.
There you go. It looks just like that. So
thank you.
So.
You guys are really technically savvy.
Well,
Blake is fabulous.
Blake is.
Good job, Blake.
He makes us look good.
The 2 of us, not so much.
Right. He makes us look good.
Blake's on the ball when it comes to that.
Yeah,
but anyhow,
so that's the same family.
Yeah. Okay. So when I was at their place and the mom made us this wonderful lamb dinner in their outdoor grill, outdoor kitchen. But when we were walking through the vineyards, it was something that it's like, oh, wow, this is more science than art. Mm-hmm. They said on the 4th row, we grow great Chardonnay. The Chardonnay on the 5th row is terrible. And we need to, so no, he says, we realized we couldn't plant Chardonnay grapes on the next row. We had to plant a different grape. I don't recall what the grape was.
So they had to switch.
So the nuance of just because it was 10 feet higher was, that's not the ideal grape to grow there. And to know that in the science and the detail and the soil and all that,
able to break it down
you all of a sudden start realizing the complexities. It's farming. It's not winemaking that is the secret sauce to great wine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I knew you were coming in today. I think we're passing over there. Okay. Knew you were coming in today. One of the things that I saw that was really kind of cool is during Prohibition, all of a sudden grape juice, and they would sell the grape juice in like concentrated containers. Mm-hmm. And then for the grape juice, what they would do, Lenny, is they would say what not to do.
Right.
In case it turned into wine in 30 days. So it actually gave you, they would sell you, and by the way, grape juice sales went up 700% during Prohibition. And a lot of I think that one's actually yours.
No, it's not. I paid attention.
Okay.
My second day, like I said.
Yeah, it's your second day. All right.
I just want you to know alcohol kills all germs.
No, yeah, that's what our beards are for.
You know, and I think
we have filtered.
Christian Brothers was able to make Sacramento wine during Prohibition. I think it was Christian Brothers were the ones who could make alcohol-related products during Prohibition. for Sacramento wine, and a couple other things, and I think possibly brandy. But yeah, that was then. But you know what you're talking about, Aaron, with with this row for Pinot Noir, and then we can't put Pinot Noir in the next row. That's taking microclimes to the inch.
Yeah, but the high end wineries that are doing it right know these things, and it's great. There was speaking of prohibition. There's we serve a wine. I just blanked on the name. It's black chicken.
Okay.
And it is if I remember right, it's a Zin.
Okay.
Well, it was an interesting story. This winery, before Prohibition, they made nice wines and things, but they were basically farmers and they were selling fruits and vegetables. The father passed away during Prohibition, and the son was 13 years old, and he says, well, we're not making enough money. So he says, we're on the farm, we're doing okay, but we need to make wine again. But it's Prohibition. So when you called up to place your order, you could order regular chickens, or you could also order a black chicken.
Okay.
And the black chickens, because at that time you had to be very careful, because all telephones were party lines.
Yes. Yeah.
And so
Like
you had
today.
to say over the party line, I would like a black chicken.
Yeah.
And then you got some Zin with your food delivery.
There you go. That's pretty cool. No, I mean it's kind of fun of the ways that people always find a way, and businesses always find a way. You've been a businessman for a long time, but it was kind of funny. They're telling you exactly what not to do,
Right.
because you don't want your grape juice to turn into wine.
Right.
And it was completely legal and all that. So what do we have here? This smells great.
This is very, very interesting guy. For people in the wine industry, this guy is historic. It's Richard Arrowwood.
Okay.
And Richard Arrowwood is best known. I don't know if you remember a wine called Chateau Saint Jean back in the 70s and 80s. Well, Richard Arrowwood was the winemaker for that.
Again, so in the
tree
70s
on the
and
front lawn.
80s, I was in the metropolis of DeLand, Florida. So we had a winemaker called Boone's Farm
Yeah.
with Country Quencher. And that was my wine of choice when I was 15, 16 years old. So,
Well, and that's fine. And then I'm sure you moved right up to Bartles and James.
no, I went straight to whiskey.
There you go. I'm so proud of you.
Unfortunately, I never used the Zima and the Bartles and James.
Oh, Zima was god awful.
Never went to those.
But they had a nice, they were nice guys, and they sat on that bench. And
Oh yeah, it seemed like
talked,
good guys. Seemed like good guys.
But anyhow, Richard Arrowwood started that, and then there were Arrowwood vineyards. He had that for quite a while, and then it got to the point where it was sold, and the people who took it over didn't give him the flexibility to do it right, so he opened up this other place, Anapola Creek, maybe in 2005 or so, and he retired in 2021 or 22, and another winery that I'm big fans of, which is B. Wise Vineyards, Brian Wise, who made like $5 billion in natural gas, bought it, and
Yeah, it's a lot of cow butt.
and he basically has continued the tradition, and the Brion wine that Brian Wise makes is like 98 point Robert Parker wines also. So he has continued what Richard Arrowwood started. This is a blend.
What's the appellation on this Grenache?
It's all Sonoma Valley.
Okay.
And it's let's see, 45% Grenache, 33% Mourvedre, 17% Syrah, and 5% Petit Syrah.
All right. For a non-wine
Those are
drinker.
grapes.
Okay. For a non-wine drinker, you said the appellation
Okay.
on it. So I know I've hiked the appellations.
Different.
Okay. What is the appellation? When you ask what's the appellation, what exactly does that mean?
It's a viticultural region that narrows down the geography where the grapes were grown.
Okay.
And if I'm not mistaken, I think it was Rodney Strong who brought appellations from France to the United States when he started making his wines over here.
I don't know
Yeah, Rodney
for
Strong.
sure, but that I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, Rodney Strong and his wife Charlotte were hoofers. They were a song and dance team in France after the war, and all the winemakers would come up from Burgundy. I know this because we got very friendly with Rodney Strong when he was still alive, and all the winemakers would come up from Burgundy and say, "We'd like to come see your show," and he would say, "Sure, but I want you to teach me how to make wine." So they had a barter system where he'd bring them in to see their shows, and then they would bring him down to Burgundy and teach him about making wines. When he came back to the States, he was primarily in Sonoma, and he was the first person, I think, that put appellations into American wines and narrowed down the viticultural regions. And it's just the area, like Napa is one, Sonoma is one, Paso Robles is one, Santa Barbara. There's more and more by the day.
Yeah.
And it gives you an area where your grapes are grown.
Gotcha.
So that you can sort of work that way.
And this one this isn't a single vineyard. This is in a polite way a mutt. It's called a cuvee. Cuvee means it can be from multiple areas. So
it's a Heinz 57 of wines.
but it's all Sonoma ground.
It's all Sonoma
grown, and most of their stuff that they do will be Moon Mountain or things of that nature. But this one here just is a cuvee of this. But this is the style wine that I was talking about. That is the new trend. That's Grenache-based wines that are typical that you would find in a French cafe.
Right.
Gotcha.
It's a very good food wine.
It's now starting to show up. You'll see a lot more Grenache-based, just like, as I mentioned, the rosés a few years ago, or Albarino is now showing up all the time on menus because that's a nice, easy drinking Spanish wine and things of that nature. But the Grenache is going to be a trend, I think, for the next 3 or 4 years. And one of the reasons that I'm going to Paso Robles is because they have a lot of Rhone-based wines in that area.
Gotcha.
Thank you, Gary.
And one of the things we're hoping to do is actually bottle Bin 39 wine and develop a relationship with a winery and have our own Bin 39 wine. Yeah. And
if you want to use the word, the numbers 904, I'm okay with that too. So,
Bin 904?
Yeah, the 904 wine.
Bin 3904.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, this is great also.
You could have a pizza sitting on a warm day over the cliffs of the water. Yeah. It feels good, doesn't it?
Or a hamburger.
Or a hamburger, yeah.
So, I mean, and all the wines you brought us today are American wines, California wines.
These are all, so far we haven't left Sonoma.
Okay.
We're not leaving. Now that I look at it, now that I look at the last one, we're not leaving Sonoma at all.
We're not leaving Sonoma. Okay,
no,
so far.
So in Sonoma, the big difference between Sonoma and Napa is Napa is much more well known. Mm-hmm. The land is more expensive. It's more prestigious. It's been changing over the years because a lot of great wines are coming out of Sonoma now. But the difference between Sonoma and Napa, from a Sonoma point of view, is Sonoma has all these artesian, great boutique wineries, and Napa's known for auto parts.
Yeah.
Well, and correct me if I'm wrong, Irving. Napa, they're vineyards, and Sonoma, they're ranchers. So they take their farming, and not more seriously, but they're more into the earth as far as the winemakers and the grape growers in Sonoma consider themselves ranchers instead of vineyards.
Well, yes and no. I agree with that in some ways, but I've met so many people in Napa who are great farmers also. Like immediately Kennard came to mind, and they
fake duck. Isn't that what canard is?
I usually get hoisted upon my canard, right? Yeah.
Yeah, well, good question. But no, this is a fabulous 50-yard line winery, and they don't use irrigation. Whatever Mother Nature decided was going to happen this year is what's going to
That's what
happen.
they give you.
And that's what you get. And so they are true farmers in a sense, and they really make unbelievable cabs.
So if they do that,
and
wouldn't their wines be, I hear all the time, oh, it's a 2015, whatever it
It's
is.
in the
It
vintages.
sounds like in their winery, that would be a big factor in, how
good
much
it
water
is.
was,
And
how
in
good
fact-
it is, and how it fits into your palate.
Right. And they are so professional at it that there are some years where they just don't make wine
Wow.
because the grapes weren't good enough. They're not going to put
They're
their
not going to hurt
name.
their brand.
Right. It's a reputation.
They will sell those grapes to the grape juice people,
Okay.
or to the people that want to make their own wine.
Yeah. All right. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Country by country, you said you're kind of have a French palate to you. Country by country, I've always kind of leaned into the Italian, the older Italian, the Armaronis, the hard cap,
The
very,
big boys.
very hearty.
You like big, bold
Right.
Yeah,
wines.
hearty. I'm a bourbon guy, so it kind of fits like where I'm at. Where is if you rank the countries 1 through 5 of the winemakers, how would you rank them? Who would you put as your Michael Jordan, and who would you put as your Magic Johnson, Larry Bird? In those rankings.
My favorite winemaker is probably Philippe Melka.
Okay.
He makes big killer cabs. He started as an intern at Chateau Petrus, which is like learning how to make cars at Maserati.
Where is he located? Sorry.
That's Bordeaux.
Chateau Petrus is in Bordeaux, but he then interned for Robert Daniel Jr., which was the Inglenook, which today is Lale Vineyard because his daughter's name is Robin Lale, and Philippe Melka still makes wine for the Lale family or the Daniel family, which now that's her maiden name, and I mean her married name, and they are ridiculously amazing wines. If you have
Burger wine.
unlimited capital and you wanted to go out and hire a winemaker, you're probably going to hire Philippe Melka or Paul Hobbs or Thomas Brown or Kurt Venge. But there are a few others, but I am very partial to the Paul Hobbs. I'm very partial to, as I said, Philippe Melka. Those, every time I can name you a half a dozen wineries that no one's ever heard of that he works with that are all good. Heidi Barrett makes exceptional wines, and she's probably the best female winemaker. Her daughter Chelsea now is making wines. They're pretty great under the radar. Winery called Matera, and her father is Bo Barrett, as in if anyone has seen the movie, the Decision of Paris movie, which is Bottle Shock.
Okay.
The guy who was fighting his father, the hippie, that's Bo Barrett.
So, Irving, let me ask you a question, because we're in Sonoma today. I got to represent a little bit of New York State. How do you feel about Long Island wines?
I've never had one.
You've never had a Long Island wine.
Oh well, except for Manischewitz. So then maybe that's
Okay, we're not talking about Seder. We're not talking about grape juice. Okay, I will say you're doing yourself a disservice.
okay. I've heard very good things about Niagara wines and Long Island wines, but I have not had.
If you go to Long Island wines, stick with the P's, particularly Pominock. is one of the best Long Island wines and has been for ages. It's a hand down from a family where Ursula Massoud would make the whites and her husband Charles would make the reds. And now they pass it on to their son Kareem, who is just a talented winemaker. He would take his winters and go to Chile when it was off season to learn how to make wine down there. The land out there is very dear, so the wineries got very expensive very quickly. It started with the Hargrave vineyards, and they were making world-class wines. And I would just try a couple of the Long Island wines, and I would start with Pomanock if you can get some.
I'll try some.
And I'd like to know your opinion on that. Look at the color on
The
this.
next time I come back, we'll talk about that.
Okay.
Yeah, this one.
Absolutely.
This one.
The color on this is beautiful, by the way.
This is a great guy. This guy's from New York.
Ah. All right.
He's from New York. Okay.
He's from
Oh,
New York.
I was from New York too, and you
So
adopted
was I.
me.
The grape-
Right, there
the
you
grapes.
go.
I was born in Poughkeepsie.
Ah,
The grapes are from
I didn't go to
Sonoma.
Vassar, but
He was.
probably could have.
He's from New York.
I was born in Vassar Hospital.
Where are you?
Yeah.
I got into Vassar on a Friday and Cornell on a Monday, and I figured had I gone to Vassar, I probably would have married Nelson Rockefeller's daughter and been a lawyer. Look at me now.
We're glad you did.
Me
You know,
too.
Nelson Rockefeller, I believe,
so is the beautiful
needed
woman
an
out there.
Well, I don't know if she's happy you didn't, but
I hope so. Otherwise, I'm in deep shit.
she's driving you home.
Yeah, right.
Okay. Well,
All right, Julie, would you like to make a comment?
Blake, don't put Julie on the
can
spot.
we get the Vassar College logo up?
Hey, you know
can do
what?
it.
They had just gone co-ed, and you can follow through on that thing. I was a soccer player in high school. Cornell had an NCAA championship soccer team. I was not making that. Vassar I could have started. But, it was big fish, small pond, small fish, big pond, and Cornell gave me, it was a state school, and my entire 4 years in an Ivy League school, as you like to point out,
Ivy Leaguer.
was under $25,000 for 4 years of college.
Yeah, I get on to him a lot because, he talks, I'm a Southern boy from DeLand, and he brings out the Ivy League on me. And then I have to ask him what the hell that word means quite a bit. So
I use
kind of
big
like you during the TDC meetings, I have to ask quite a bit of questions.
I use big words. I just can't spell them properly.
Yeah. All right.
I understand that. Well, we're going to talk
This
a
is
little bit
beautiful
about
color.
Robert Kamen.
Robert Kamen. Okay.
Okay, Robert Kamen, I met him at a Sonoma Wine Festival about 18 years ago, and little VIP area. He's pouring wine, and I tasted the wine. It's very, very good, but I was taken back by his T-shirt. It was just this nice black T-shirt, and the writing on it was wax on, wax off.
Oh, okay. Karate Kid.
There you go.
And I said, "Where did you get that T-shirt? I love that T-shirt. I want one." He says, "They're not for sale." I said, "Then how the hell did you get one?" He says, "Well, I wrote the movie. I can do whatever I want."
Well, there you go.
There you go. Mr. Miyagi.
Right.
So this is the writer. This is Robert Kamen, who is a major Hollywood writer. He's written all three of the Karate Kid movies. He's written The Fugitive. He wrote all the Taken movies. So basically, he's a big deal, and he makes a lot of
Give him a
money.
plug because he's
Ooh,
got another one coming out now. There's another Karate Kid coming out.
So he wrote the whole speech and Taken. I have a very specific set of skills.
Yeah.
So he wrote that entire line that's
All right.
used all over the world in different gifs and memes and stuff.
Well, anyhow, in I think it was somewhere right around 1970 or something, he wrote his first screenplay. Maybe it was 1980. I don't really remember. And he made $350,000. And he had found this beautiful area up in Sonoma Mountain. I think it's probably Moon Mountain. I don't remember now. But he found this land, and he endorsed the check he got for $350,000 for writing his first screenplay to buy this winery.
Wow.
That's great.
And then
That's balls. Is what that is.
well, and then he went to his neighbors and hired his farmer it was Jerry Garcia and he hired Jerry Garcia's pot grower to make his wine.
I love this man more than I did 5 minutes ago.
And he's from New York.
He's just keeping getting better in my book.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
Wow. See, now you're into my world right here.
And
This is
Robert's goal is to make money, break even.
Mm-hmm.
He has never made a profit in his wine business, and he makes stellar things, but is for the quality, the price is quite affordable. He has a tasting room in downtown Sonoma, but if you really do it, the VIP thing is to go up to his winery where you have to you have to follow. We had to actually follow their driver. Our driver had to follow them up this like bumpy road for like 20 minutes to get up
the
there.
long winding road.
And we sat on this amazing deck overlooking the whole valley, drinking some of the
Doesn't sound like your worst day.
No,
there is.
And again, these are all the places that have how I learned wine over the years.
Mm-hmm.
You get exposed, you sit down and you talk to this guy. He had just come back from a 40-mile bike ride. He's 70 years old. Nicest guy you've ever met, just down to earth.
That's some hilly territory to ride a bicycle.
Yeah, well, he has less fat than anyone I ever saw at 70. He's like in impeccable shape.
Well,
But-
would you say that somebody like Mr. Kamen, who takes his $350,000 check and plunks it down on a vineyard, he didn't have a winemaking background at the time, did he?
No, he had no background. He just thought he could be a Hollywood writer, and he went out there without.
He had confidence
So-
in himself in the future projects.
Sure.
Said,
So a lot of these vineyards, for a lot of very affluent people, Francis Ford Coppola in particular as well, they start out sort of as vanity projects, and then all of a sudden they start making really good wines, and it becomes a profitable business.
Right, and but they do say that Napa is the best place to take a $3 million investment and turn it into $1 million overnight.
how do you make a small fortune? You start with a large
Larger
fortune. You
fortune,
buy
yeah.
a vineyard.
Yeah.
And,
Exactly. But Robert is just he's like one of the great finds, and all of these
Color on this is beautiful.
This is a great
Chris here, the amazing part about every one of these people has a story.
Mm-hmm.
Chris does business with the distillery.
Mm.
He has invented, the owner of this winery and Phil work
Bill
together.
McDaniel.
Really?
Yeah. This is like, she was supposed to be here May of 2020 for a special tasting. She was coming to visit with us. The guy who used to cut my hair, cousin is best friends with the owner of this winery.
So you have a personal
And-
connection with all of them.
Okay,
great?
I
Yeah.
went to Brian Wise with a note from Joe the barber, and he wrote this little note on this. I give it to this billionaire, this little note from my barber, and he says, "Wow, oh no, you're not drinking those ones. You're drinking these ones."
You're coming over here.
Right.
So my barber hooked me up and got amazing wines. And then this was wax on, wax off.
Yeah, that's
So, but I have stories of all 50 of the places. And when we started Bin 39, I went to every winery that I was a member of, and I was a member of maybe 50 wine clubs at the time. And I said, who sells through distributors and who are the boutique distributors that you use? And I was able to create a wine list through all these special boutique distributors, and they all the owners of each of the distributors or the senior people came to help me because of all these wine clubs that I developed relationships with.
Well, it is. It's a relationship business. And certainly, for you to be able to get, and as I mentioned the word allocation before, so when I had my restaurant, there was a limited availability of certain wines, the high-end wines, the Insignias, the Opus Ones, things of that nature. You were limited in how much you could buy, and you had to, either have a good hook in the wine business, or you weren't getting it. So the relationships really enable you to get some of the better wines that are available today, which probably makes you, a unicorn in the business, that you have these fabulous wines at your disposal, at our disposal. Thank you. At our disposal.
Thank you.
Thank you very right. Thank you
You're
very much
welcome.
for that. Yeah, this is this is delightful for a cab.
Yeah, I'm telling you right now, this.
And what's
this cab is
interesting
great.
is Sonoma cabs taste aged. They feel like they're. This is an 18, so it is aged a little bit.
Good. Okay. Yeah.
I love it.
I have to do
but-
math. That's always troubles me.
7.
Thank you.
7 years. But when you drink a 2021 of this, or 22, I think I have 21 now. That just came. It tastes like an 8-year-old Napa cab, because Sonoma wines tend to be smoother and a little rounder. They don't have that earthiness that the big heavy Napa cabs, but when you let your Napa cab age 10 years, it has that earthiness, but it also feels much smoother and softer.
And it doesn't lose the fruit, which is the key. That's the whole key. If you don't mind, I would like to wax on a little bit more, because I have a driver.
Yeah, I'm
and
telling you.
she's beautiful.
Yeah,
My driver.
yeah. Your
Honey.
driver deserves this wine.
Yeah.
Would you like some?
I think she probably would, but I can share with her.
Yeah,
We have another glass.
Ooh. Julie, you want to come in and get a glass of wine?
Yeah, I can tell you right now, as far as cabs go, and there's
Thank you, Irving.
nothing.
This is beautiful.
Want some more?
Yeah, I'm gonna reload too. 'cause
Just the
I
color
also-
on this.
I also have a driver,
Right. Hi, Blake.
and
But the color on this is just spectacular.
all right, would we be able to find this at bin 39 if we stopped in there and if you can share with Julie? This is absolutely
Irving.
beautiful.
There was a big smile there.
Yeah.
That's my beautiful wife. I married so well, it's
You
not even
married up.
funny.
You
She
married
married
up.
down, I married up.
You married up. This wine, would I be able to walk into bin 39 and say, "Hey,
Unfortunately,
Not
none
this
of the
vintage,
4 I
not this
brought
vintage.
today are on our list,
okay,
but I may add the Cayman, because I can buy this through a distributor.
Different vintage, however.
It'd be a
Well,
different year.
well
Yeah.
I just pulled one off my rack. I think I took these. This one was in the fridge. I have 3 wine fridges, and then I have a bunch of racks,
All right.
so I don't know what.
Yeah.
Here's a question I have.
That was 2 hours ago, 3 hours ago. I don't remember.
My reds. I have a
we
small-
we have 20, probably 20 cabs on the menu.
Mhm.
You're gonna go gaga over about 19 of them.
Oh, really? So, my wine cooler, I can hold about 10 bottles. A very small wine cooler. It's all reds in my wine cooler. I was told the proper temperature is around 62. Is that right, or should it be a little lower? I've heard lower, but I've heard castle temperature should be
Well,
around 62. What is
If
your
you want,
thoughts on
if you
that?
want to know the fact,
Mhm.
go back to 300 years ago and build a cave.
Mhm.
The average temperature in a cave was around 55, 60 degrees.
So bring it down a little bit. Okay. All right.
Buy the book, and who knows if the book's right or wrong, but buy the
When I played
book.
blackjack,
That's
when
exactly
I played
where I went.
blackjack, I played by the book.
That's where I went.
Okay.
That's the
Buy
book.
the book. The best temperature for to store wine is 55 degrees. In fact, there's a storage facility called Park 55. There's all sorts of where you buy wine, you put it in your square, and then you sell it to someone else, and it moves to the next square.
Gotcha.
But they store everything at 55 degrees. But to drink your wine, you want to drink a red around 60, 65 degrees.
Okay.
So that's why you open it, you can it, you let it
breathe a little bit.
But what you also want to do is the warmer the wine gets without getting hot, the more the flavors. Think about boiling water. As you boil it, the gases start coming out.
Yeah.
So the warmer the wine, the more the gases come out, the more you get the whole experience. So drink red wine at 65 degrees. White wine, everyone thinks they should drink it at like 30. You should be drinking it at 60 degrees.
Gotcha.
And you'll notice that if you order a nice bottle of white wine and you let it sit on the table, that last glass tastes better than the first glass.
I thought it was because I was getting drunker.
It's warmed up.
So, yeah, I want to ask you a question, because when I would do wine tastings with, wine salespeople or in vineyards and things, they'd pull them out of a cooler bag, and I'd say, all right, just let it sit for a little while. Because I like to taste my white wines in particular at closer to room temperature, because you can get the nuances in the wine. If it's cold, it's flat. It tastes cold. You're not getting any of the great. Yeah.
Bad wine drink cold. Good wine drink warm.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Kind of takes away.
And that's it.
No, seriously. If you're serving okay wine, serve it cold.
Gotcha.
It will taste better.
Yeah,
People
just
say,
chill
"Oh, this
it
is
down.
awesome."
Right.
Chill it down. All right, guys, guess what? We're at the end of our show. This was great.
Can we do this again tomorrow, Daddy?
we might have to have a monthly wine Wednesday.
There you go.
It gives us a reason to all have a sip or two.
Excuse.
So, Irving, thank you so much for
You're
coming
welcome.
in.
Thank you.
Ben 39 is a beautiful place. You're so
Thank you.
knowledgeable. You have just your staff is amazing over there. You have live music, and I can vouch right now. I'm not a huge wine guy, but I loved every single
You
one of
guys
the
fight
ones you
over
gave
that.
me.
You can have it.
So, all
He's
right,
scrappy,
this is
but I'm tough.
Bollocks. This is Bollocks this evening. I might be stuttering a little bit.
We'll see you tomorrow. Come back and see us tomorrow. We'll be here.
All right. I want to say thank you to all our sponsors. You guys, please hit that share button and check out Ben 39. Thank you.